here. I'll throw us on live on the other computer once it restarts itself. But technology and everything. I got to say, Quantel's got the best looking background here out of all of us right now.
He's showing off.
He is. He is. He came looking good too. Look, he got a clean shave on today. Looks like
You got him muted.
Unmute Quantel here. All right, now we can hear him.
Yeah, they're rebelling out here. They I got a few of my barber I go to. He's actually working out of his garage right now, so they're not even letting like a lot of the salons and barbershops even open up yet. So it's just people ready to start protesting right now. So it's just one of those where it's just a little tough right now for a lot of people. But he's able to get me a little haircut. I was looking like I was like I'd been in prison for for a couple of years for a minute.
There you go. All right, for everybody listening and or watching, we got Quantal Langford over here, Langford Designs, Just Heart Apparel, Creative Brew. Anything I'm missing of yours there?
Well, quick. I don't know. I'm working on a book right now.
On a book, the Seed book or another book?
It's called Seed. No. So those are the things I'm working on right now, and man, just trying to keep it all going.
All right, awesome. And for those of you guys who don't know, Quantal wrestled with us, Tyler and I at Chattanooga. So Chattanooga strong, go Mox, and then
Tyler, watch out!
California now, right?
Tyler did not wrestle at Chattanooga. Okay.
Well, Tyler's not on today, so
I'm not Tyler. You called me Tyler, all right?
Oh man, I'm so used to Tyler. Coach Tucker, Tyler. No.
Oh, come on! We shared way too much to throw me that way.
Yeah, that's true. You can throw way too much under the bus there for that.
I see who you'd rather have on here. Okay, all right.
But Tucker, Quantal, myself, we all wrestled Chattanooga. Quantal, originally from Tennessee, out in where in California you at again?
I'm actually in Oceanside, California. It's probably like about 30 miles north of San Diego. I'm right near Camp Pendleton military base.
All right.
Got a lot of military. I usually when the gym's actually open, I'm still doing a little part-time wrestling, coaching wrestling. But we usually have a lot of military guys, and oddly enough, I have a lot of people from Tennessee that pops in. So it's sort of weird. It's weird. I mean, I got one guy that actually trains there. He's from Sweetwater, Tennessee, which isn't far from between Knoxville and Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's like, how did you end up out here? And obviously he was in the military and stuff like that. But yeah, I've met all kinds of people that are in the military that's from Tennessee area. So it's sort of cool seeing all them, and but yeah, man, it's I'm from Cleveland, Tennessee, and so born and raised around that area, around the Chattanooga area.
All right, pretty good deal. Like I said, that's the nice looking trees and such in the background over there, looking good over there. So, so obviously out west, I think you guys are a little more right now, like you said, people are ready to protest. I mean, but your guys' lockdown has been, I think, going for a little bit longer. You guys are definitely, like, if I talk to you, masks everywhere, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Masks, lockdowns. And one of our things we were going to talk about today, being a wrestling show, as well as I was going to ask you a couple questions, but was, just seeing the different regions and locales that we're at. I mean, Nick's not too far from me, but down in Alabama, but they're doing things differently than we are in South Carolina. I'm sure Tennessee's doing things differently. And then, out west, I know I talked to my parents in Washington State. Their lockdown is different than their quarantine is different than our quarantine out here. So, but being as how, you're part of, like you said, the wrestling training and the compound that you go to and all that, what's the word on, well, apparently, barbershops are underground for you and stuff right now out there, but what's the word on sports and athletics as far as like upcoming for next year, since we'll kind of keep this somewhat, what you want to call it,
Yeah,
It's really
yeah. I
interesting.
don't know. California's a weird state. I try to keep up with it as much as I can. I know, um, from school wise. I mean, I think a lot of them are. I think they'll be taking some precautions definitely going into um, the coming year. I really hadn't heard too much per se as far as with the split. I mean, I know they as soon as it hit, I know they pretty much just canceled everything. It's I mean, with California, it's such a large state, and but oddly, it's only affecting certain. It's really affecting certain parts. Like I know here, the cases aren't as high as like San Diego. LA is just, and obviously the LA area is just crazy because it's so many people packed in. San Diego, it's bad, but it's nowhere near the impact as LA going up. Um, so yeah, it's sort of weird. We got some cases here, but it's nowhere near um, as bad as other parts of California. So it's just one of those to where it's just such a large state, and when you got one government trying to oversee that, golly, I think it's like 40 million people or something like that. It's just, and then at the same time too, you've got the government saying one thing, and then you've got the county saying certain things. So everybody is just in a disconnect with, okay, what can open, when can we do certain things. Right now, I think for the most part, uh, I think school is supposed to start as originally planned, from my knowledge, but I think they're taking precautions as far as what they're going to be doing, especially with practice and football, even going through into wrestling. I think right now it's still up in the air, so it's just a um, weird dynamic right now as far as how anyone's even gonna proceed right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and I didn't think about that too, although I probably should have. Like you said, just how big California in and of itself is. I mean, you
Yeah,
go from like major metropolitan areas. It's kind of like us going to like Atlanta. Going
yeah,
to you got your LA, San Francisco, San Diego, and then you do have, and that's all in one state. I mean, um,
yeah,
down here in the South, I mean, yeah, we do have our metropolitan areas, but we don't have four or five of them in one state and then spread out to all
yeah,
that. So yeah, I can only imagine. And I think that's been a big thing is just like you just said, the disconnect and the not realizing how different areas are. And like you said, trying to, I don't want to be in charge of it, trying to govern and say, hey, this is the best thing for everybody, or even for just that state, or if they somehow do like a county type of release of control, man, I don't know. That's
yeah. And that's actually what happened with the beaches, because the beaches were initially everything was closed. And so what happened was they actually released, because some of the beaches are controlled by the state and some aren't. Ours luckily isn't controlled by the state, so we were able to have a limited release where, I mean, it can open up, but it can't open up just fully. Like, we can have surfers, we can run, walk. We just can't just be sitting out like in groups, like it usually does, especially when it hits May and June. Because it's such a big tourist town around here. People come from all over, and they crowd into the beaches and it gets packed. So right now they're pretty much negating any of that. So as long as you're spaced out, you're walking, running, doing something active, you're fine. But a lot of the state run beaches, they've helped closed down right now. You've had a lot of people up in revolt about that too. So it's been wild.
that's crazy. I know it's been interesting, and then I'm gonna ask Nick how Alabama is, and then kind of leading into the sports part of it. But I know we were one of the last states to actually close down or kind of go to the shutdown at home and self quarantine and stuff like that. South Carolina was is like, because I watched like all the other states close down and do this and do that, and I was like, if this is that bad, well, why aren't we doing something? And then our governor is a case in and of himself, and he was like, I believe that South Carolinians are different, and we're going to take care of ourselves. And And then it got to the point of like, yes, we're different. You are now grounded because you didn't do what you should have done. And I was like, man. So when they finally did close it all down, it closed down for a little bit. But then also, we're like one of the first ones to be opening back up. And I found like a lot of places, like, well, they opened the beaches back up. And the counties that have the beaches were like, seeing as how we just closed down, we're going to go by the CDC thing that says the social gathering and remain closed for a while longer. So we're seeing places choose to be able to stay closed longer, or like some of the beaches. I think some of them are now opening back up. Where the state's opening a lot of stuff back up. Barbershops here are opening back up. The looks of those are all different because one of the ones where sometimes I'll take my kids to, that a teacher friend of mine, her husband runs that one. But like, yeah, you got to set an appointment now. They were like, if you don't have a mask, you better get one, or you'll be able to buy one there. And there'll be like 2 people in the shop at a time, so like, whereas we're one of the first ones opening things back up, you're just seeing a lot of rules and regulations in place. And then there are other places that I see that have, as they're allowed to open, have said, hey, we're going to hold off until the end of this month, until June 2nd, instead of opening like everybody else is right now, and kind of see what happens. Because, like, for example, a tattoo shop that I really like down in Columbia, and they were shut for a while before the quarantine because they had moved locations, and they were fighting with city council on the location of it, and, all the politics of that. But they finally got open. They get open, and then COVID comes in and shuts them down. And so they've been shut down for an extremely long time. And the first thing they want to do is they want to, be opened up for people. But they're like, look, guys, last thing we want to do is schedule appointments and then have to reschedule them yet again if something else happens after we open up too soon or something like that. So I think it's really interesting to see how different cities to counties, all that, like you said, are just in different states and doing different things. Right now, I know, like I said, getting into the sports talk of it, things are right now just kind of up in the air and question right now. There hasn't been a hard set rule on anything, on what they said they're going to do. The idea is hopefully schools open as normal. Everybody's ideal philosophy is like, schools are open, we're able to go back to school. If that can happen, then sports should be able to happen. But if there's any sort of schedule or conflict or something like that, it's going to have some sort of ramification. And I think the high school league is going to come down with something. And we were just talking the other day, and it was like, can you imagine starting school and there not being a football season? Like those kids that, like, it's just part of like that school life of high school and stuff, middle school, of school started again and it's Friday night lights. And, that's just regular part of Norman. Trying to imagine without that right now. And then obviously trying to imagine even further, because, we are wrestling and we're one of those sports that is very much, there is no social distancing, while we compete. What is our stuff going to look like? And I've heard I've heard Georgia talking about possibly, I haven't heard about other sports, but I know they've already talked about whether or not wrestling will happen next year as a state. Rumor mill. So, and then I'm curious as to what Nick's heard, because I know he said something about hearing something from Georgia. I know the Puller, how do you say his name?
Parlor.
I know
Parlor.
You said they're having the camp this summer, but some of our local places that like bring clinicians in and stuff like that, we don't know if we're going to be able to have those people come in, because some of our stuff is, hosted at like the high school, or hosted at some. So we don't know what we can do with wrestling right now this summer. Will our school, if we're not going to a private one, just taking our own kid or something, will our school still let us, even if, say, Tennessee opens up, will they let us drive to Tennessee with 2 suburban schools of kids to go to a camp? We're just, so much is kind of like up in the air right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we've kind of, and I spent the past weekend at my in-laws' place in Florida. So I've kind of actually got to see you guys talking about beaches, and that kind of hit me all that. I was talking to them, and Alabama opened up about a week ago with their beaches, and kind of like you were saying, Quantal, like, you could get on it. They went from nobody to now you could get on it, and no socializing. And then like last week, it went to the counties to open up. And so they're in Okaloosa Island, Fort Walton Beach. Well, that county decided that they were going to wait until like the end of last week to allow social distancing. Well, the county right next to them, where Panama City was, they were like, we all know Panama City. They were like, wide open. So like the next day, Fort Walton Beach and that whole county was like, all right, open it back up. And they said the Best Western right next to where we stayed for my wedding, Ed, that they were like, the next day they were like putting umbrellas and chairs up, but they have the social distance. Like you have to have 6 feet between. And where my in-laws work, the owners have like their own chairs. So, some of the owners were like, we don't care. You could put our groups closer because we like it. But that's kind of what's been going on with the beaches here. And I thought it was interesting when you said that, because that's kind of what's going on in Florida, because you guys have more of a beach. Alabama's got a few. And so they just said, open it up, let's go with that. And we've opened up hair salons and things like that. So got my son scheduled for later on. It's the same thing Ed said, got to do appointments and mask and all that good stuff. And I guess bringing this into the sports thing, like you just said, we've kind of got a weird situation going on here in Alabama, in that the Athletic Association has said everybody's shut down, I think until June the 8th is when they shut us down. Nothing, no contacts, like all we can do is like meetings like this. And so June the 8th, well, last week, the state superintendent gets on and says, oh, well, I can see the schools being able to start doing stuff with like groups of like 10 starting June the 2nd. So you got the state superintendent saying something counter to what the athletic department says. So now they've got meetings. So we've kind of got stuff in there. The good thing is it sounds like we're going to be able to start getting our hands on kids the first part of June. But like I said, it's a group of 10. And since I run the whole off-season programs for our wrestling program, middle and high, and probably about to take over the middle school football program, that's going to be really fun to try to get groups of 10. We're just going to be spread out all over campus, because hopefully that'll work. But right now we're planning on scheduling. I mean, the University of Alabama came out, I think yesterday, and said they plan on not only playing, but having a full stadium. And what I hinted at with Ed was, Georgia is saying they're looking at July being able to start doing football stuff, which is kind of what Alabama's saying too. And so I don't see how we could have a leg to stand on to allow football, which we all know is king in the South. We're all from around here or that. But and then to say, well, you can't have wrestling because it's not social distancing. Well, football is just as tight.
Yeah, no, that was kind of the argument that the people were having. And this was just what I'd heard about Georgia was complete speculation and hearsay. And they were just talking about if this doesn't happen, they were talking about the private sector. What can they do to make it happen? Can the clubs therefore end up still getting sanctioned and certified and have like a private sector? No different than your Club USA, AAU type of thing, but having that in place of. And they were talking, because apparently the club wrestling is a little bit bigger down in Georgia than it is here in South Carolina. I mean, obviously, you know of, I think the big one is, compound, clothing and compound wrestling in Georgia. But apparently when I was looking at some of the stuff, it wasn't just them. There was a multitude of different clubs there that were like, hey, we could do the club thing and get kids out from local high schools to sign waivers. Anything that you would sign for USA Wrestling anyway.
And we asked, because we were scheduled to take a group to UTC to team camp this year, which I just found out today they've had to scratch due to the university, which that's a totally different animal. We can get into it or not. But when we were told that basically, all right, we're probably not going to allow you guys to transport any kids that way. And so the question was asked, well, what if parents still take them? Because it is an individual camp. And, we were kind of told, well, the parents can do whatever they want, which kind of answers your question from earlier. What about kids, people doing that? And, so, and that's kind of why with Nick Perler and what they have, he has his own compound, is totally separate. And I think you're going to see I don't think it's just going to be wrestling. And you can speak to this out in California as well. I don't think it's just going to be wrestling. I think once gyms and those places open that are private, you're going to see football, baseball, basketball, gymnastics. My daughter's gymnastics is open back up. I think you're going to see a lot of those places take off even more, which will be good and bad because the schools are so locked down, because they are kind of controlled, like you said, with the beaches out there in California. If the government has it, they lock it down. Private entities, you open it up, you find ways to make it work.
So, but yeah, like I think my kid's baseball practice season that had got canceled is slated to start practice on Sunday, and they're like, we just can't be in the dugouts, you know. I was like, okay, so
what about the pit? What about the batter, the catcher, and the umpire? How's that social distancing going to work?
you know, like I'm so that, and then like, oh, and here's the other one that tripped me out was you know, the rec soccer leagues that are about to open back up too. Like my daughter gets to play, and she's in the 10 and under group, and we all know how little kids are around a ball, closer together. But yet they were like, but unfortunately our 8, 6 and under group, so Henry won't get to play. They're like, we're going to just refund you guys on this even younger groups because we can't get the little kids to social. I'm like, you can't get 14, 15-year-olds to social distance on a soccer field in a rec league. Like, where's your justification coming from on these things? Like, you know, like it's like Quantal said, it's the disconnect that's bothersome. It's like you look at one thing and you say it one way, but is it really like I'm trying to find some sort of consistency of it all, and I'm like mind blown.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just comes down to leadership, and I mean, I think I'm going to say probably leadership and money, but even with the NCAA's, their NCAA committee, they're talking about trying to cut off everything. Football is a $1 billion sport. Are you really that bold to say, okay, football season's done for this year? There's too many boosters, too many sponsors, too many. I was like, you are not going to cut football from now. I say that because now I'm wondering. I like to see what they're going to do with football as compared to some of the other sports that may not compare. Well, I'd like to see what they do with football and basketball compared to some of the non-revenue sports.
Mm-hmm.
And see what the precedent is with that. But I think depending on how they do with football this year with collegiate football, I think that'll be set as far as what they do with a lot of the sports. But NCAA, they've proved me wrong time and time again. They say certain things that boggles the mind, and I just wouldn't see them cutting any. I think they should just go ahead and go with it. I think there's been better, testing and stuff now. And I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those where I think paranoia is, kills people more than anything else right now. I think they just need to, go ahead and go with it and, and go from there. But if they end up cutting football or some of these other, high revenue sports, I think if they do that, then we may not even see a wrestling season this year. I don't know.
Yeah, they won't be able to afford it because they won't have any of the money from it.
Well, if you cut football, they're going to cut everything else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, which is that statement that I've heard him say, like, if campuses aren't 100% open, we're not going to have sports, And I was like, it's a bold statement, like Quantal said, but they've done things before that have surprised us in the past as well.
But he made a good point with the money, because we all know they do follow the revenue, and SEC will play football. Let's just say it. Big Ten will play football. It's the Pac where you are, Quantal, the Pac, whatever they are, 10, 12, I don't know what teams they are. They're the ones that you're starting to hear the little chirps of, oh, well, if we're not going to have it. And they're not big football people out there.
No, they're not. It's not as hardcore as it sounds. I learned that coming out here. They care. They love NFL more. They love their Cowboys and Steelers more than they do than college football out here. It's sort of reverse when you go into the South. Everybody loves their college teams, but out here, it's just the Cowboys travel. They love the Cowboys. They love the Steelers. A lot of Steelers fans out here. But they just did college wise. They really don't care too much. It's so.
Yeah.
Now, if NFL cuts out, if the NFL cuts their season, it's going to be some people irate. But college wise, I'm like,
Yeah, NFL, they've hinted, but I think they also do understand that we've got to play. There will be playing in the NFL. So I know you live out there. I'm a Niners fan, so you can't mention the Cowboys anymore. All right, no more Cowboys mentions. Okay,
Go Niners.
So you're outnumbered too.
But yeah, that's funny because I came from out west and came to the South and realized I was like, what's the big deal with college football? There's pros for a reason, it's a completely different mentality out west, and that was just my thought. I was like, man, all these people are that big into college football, I thought pros was where it was at, just how you grew up watching it,
Yeah.
And it's just different. I do think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with football, how that plays out. Like Quantal said, also how basketball plays out. Football, jokingly, I'm like, man, they could still find a way. You completely deck out a helmet now. We can go straight astronaut style, close off the whole face. It'd be funny, but I don't know. I do think that moving forward, at least for a while, a new norm, like you said, as everything opens back up, there's going to be new norms. It's just seeing how that adapts to what it is that we do with our old school things, especially in sports and things like that. I think the new norm with places opening and barbershops and other places are the masks or the face shields, and I think you're going to see more of those. I wonder about education, in the classroom, if we do open, are those going to be optional or are those going to be mandatory? Kind of like how the box stores, Costco, if you just go in, you're supposed to wear a mask now, different places enforce that, other places don't. So where are we going to see that? Right now, I'm like, hey, I think it's going to be part of the new norm for at least for a little while. Got some of those Cerebrus face shields on order from Quantal. So, if you guys need them, go hit my man up. He'll at least take care of you for what we need for a while. I got another guy who does design stuff. He does some regular masks and stuff like that. So, if you got to do it, look good with it. I am very curious to see how it advances off. Football is kind of the early one. If something didn't happen with football, you still have basketball as a revenue sport. But if they take out the two big revenue ones, I just think everybody else is done.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to take, if they do football, they'll take basketball. A lot of it, I think, will depend on Major League Baseball talking about July 1st. And a couple weeks ago, I talked to one of the guys I coached whose brother plays for the MLB. And we kind of both speculated July 4th. Major League Baseball is one of those, we can't have July 4th without having baseball.
Baseball, grills, and
all of a sudden,
fireworks, yeah.
And so now we're talking and working and doing all this stuff. And so you're starting to hear more and more. And I'm going to reach out to him this week and kind of see what his brother's hearing. But it's looking more and more like we're going to have baseball, getting them into camps June and figuring things out and then starting to play by the 1st July, which they're already doing that in Taiwan and South Korea. They're already back to playing games, and they've even got fans in the stands in some of them. So you're starting to see places, and I'm one of those people, I don't like using the word new norm. No, this is not who we are as a culture. I just don't believe that. And I'm the guy that doesn't wear the mask. I'm going to rock the mask though, Ed, because that's just sharp. So when somebody says you got to wear it, I'm going to pull it up and rock it. But yeah, I see a lot of people, especially in this area, and I'm interested in what you see out there, Quantal, that are either die hard with the mask and all over it, or they're on the other end and they're just like, guys, this is what's really happening. Let's open your eyes. You brought up a great word, I think, with the hysteria earlier. And I listened to the guy give the speech, or heard give the speech, saying, oh, there's going to be another spike. And Like, well, you'd have to be dumb to say that there wouldn't be another spike because you put everybody in quarantine or said stay away from each other. There's going to be another spike. So it's almost like we're setting up for the next hysteria, panic. We mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Like, I think if that does happen, you're going to see a lot of people just go, it wasn't that bad the first time. So I guess that's my take. So what's it like out there? How is it in a more left-leaning, non-right conservative area or state?
Yeah, it's one of those where, especially out here, people, man, people, especially when it comes to politics and then government policies, man, people can get real decisive out here, man. It's one people either go one spectrum or the other, but I think right now, they just feel like a lot of their civil liberties have been taken right now. They feel like we're in like some kind of martial law out here, and right now people don't take that too well. I could see if they were recompensated for their time lost, but that's not even happening right now. And there's a lot of businesses that's dropping like flies around here. A lot of for rent signs are up. I've been, me and my wife, we've been very blessed, been very fortunate. But I mean, just overall, I mean, I said all the, a lot of the people's businesses it went down. Obviously, with the restaurants, a lot of people do takeout, and we have a huge restaurant industry out here. And when the virus had initially hit, I mean, it was just killing people. People lost jobs and everything. So, and it's not cheap to live out here either. And I think right now, personally for me, I was against the face mask. I'm one of those to where I feel like if you take care of your body, you eat the right stuff. I feel like my immunity is good enough to where I'm fine. Now, what's happened now is where they made it a fact that any public place out here, you have to have a face mask on. If I went into Walmart, if I went into any other grocery store, if you don't have a mask on, they're either gonna tell you to get out or they'll supply you with one. So at first it was like, it was sort of optional. People would have masks, some people wouldn't. I wouldn't even have a mask when I was, walking in. But now they've made it pretty much, a done deal. Like you've got to have a mask on when you come in. So even with the beaches, I usually, if I'm running and working out, I usually don't have a mask on. Now, if I walk by somebody, I'll be attentional. No, I'll be aware enough just to put on my mask while I'm walking. I'll sort of walk away from them and then walk around them. If I'm running, I don't keep my mask on. So it's just one of those where just being aware of what's going on. But you got a lot of people that you still got people around here that won't wear it, but you do have a lot of people that have the mask on while they're driving in the car, which makes no sense. So we've got neurotics like that out here, but it's just one of those where I think people are just ready to get back. Really, the biggest thing is people are ready to get back to work. They don't care how. They don't care about having the mask on. They just want to be able to get back to work and get things going because there's a lot of people like the landowners. I mean, the property owners. They're not. I think for the most part, I know I've heard on the East Coast where they it's been some people that like, hey, look, you don't have to pay rent this week, or they've done certain things to sort of ease up the pain with renters, but not out here. And it's been some people, just having to put the for rent sign up, clear their stuff out. They just can't afford it. Like I said, I'm fortunate. I work from home. A lot of my clients, I pretty much work, online. So even when it hit, I did have a stall as far as on certain projects, but I think in that time it sort of forced me to get a little bit more creative with certain things, and I think right now that's what a lot of businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs have to do is figure out ways to learn how to partner up with other people and get more resourceful and get more creative, because I'm gonna tell you that the government ain't helping. So you have to do what you can to, help out the other people that's in the same boat as you. But yeah, right now people's been pretty. At first, everybody was like, "No, I'm not wearing no mask," but now everybody's been pretty chill with it. Everybody uses it as pretty much a fashion accessory now. Yeah, like I said, I know usually I have my little face cover on whenever I'm walking around. But yeah, it just depends on what I'm doing. Like if I go in there and like say if I go into the gym and I work out or I'm wrestling or something like that, I just or doing jiu-jitsu, I won't have my face cover on. It's just one of those where first it's not really functional and I can't breathe with it on.
Yeah, it's a different.
Yeah, and but at the same time too, I try to be aware of, like if you're sick, I'm not gonna mess with you. But I think for the most part, even with a lot of the military guys, they've been getting checked, so a lot of them are pretty much fine. But just being a little bit more aware of, making sure cleaning surfaces. I jump in the sauna every day, doing a lot of deep breathing, sweating that stuff out. So there's a lot of things I do to sort of, take care of my body and make sure I'm not, not lowering my immune system in any way. So.
Yeah. The only place around here that is prepared is the city of Birmingham last week. Yeah, required that unless you're doing physical activity inside the city limits, you're supposed to have a mask on. And but otherwise, everywhere around here is kind of like you said. I mean, it's kind of hit and miss. When we were down at my in-laws, she took my mother-in-law took my son out for grocery shopping. He had to wear a mask because they were like, well, this store requires you to wear a mask, but this store doesn't. And I know even around here, like, well, we usually hit Home Depot because it's right by the house, but they have the line outside. They're checking. Well, Lowe's is just like, come on in. So, like everybody, but yeah, I mean, it is crazy, man. It's absolutely like, come on. So, and that's kind of what Nick Perler said about his wrestling camps. He was like, well, if they won't let us have it here, we'll go have it in the Walmart parking lot. Obviously, you can meet there and nobody cares. But the mask thing is, I don't know. I'm not, and the studies are coming out, all that stuff. So, but studies can show whatever. So I was just curious what it was out there.
Yeah, it's a disconnect with it. So, like you said, you go to one store, they do, they don't. They say that you're supposed to, but then you get places that don't enforce it, and then then it causes that division amongst people because then you have certain people that they say you're supposed to wear it, and then they go in and they wear it, and then you look around and there are others that don't. So it's kind of that whole where they've tried to do like the stores have tried to do like one way in the grocery aisle and stuff like that. And then you get people who still just don't care and still do it their way. It's kind of like at a certain point, there's also some of the studies that don't have to do with like the effectiveness of the mask, but how the masks can help how people feel and or like following the walkway. So it just kind of becomes like a mutual respect kind of thing. If the stores say you're supposed to wear a mask, and if everybody just wears the mask and goes down the aisles as they say, then you don't have that rebellious entitlement attitude of those that are not going to wear a mask. And if this says one way down this aisle, but if it's halfway down there and I want to go this way, well, screw you and your card. I'm going to go this way anyway. And you're like, now you're just being kind of like a butt to everybody. And you're just trying to go about their business and do the right thing. So, I'll deal with the mask as far as like, not cosmetic, but like as another form of apparel. If you're going to do it, might as well do it right. Might as well look good with it. And then also like, hey, I'm going to be, we're allowed to go out. We're allowed to do things. If they say wear a mask, to me, it's not that big of a deal. If it helps out, it helps. If it helps with somebody feel more comfortable and they're not stressed out as much, cool. But, I'm going to try to do what I can to allow things to still happen without my civil rights and other things being infringed upon more. It's kind of like, that's not really bothering me to wear a mask if that's what they want me to do. It's not like they're taking a whole lot away in that case, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's kind of crazy. So,
have you seen that, like, I think it was Montana and one of the other lower populated states, like some of the smaller schools and heck, I want to say even all the schools have had the option to even open back up, and they've opened back up
Wow.
this week. Yeah, so
Like I
they're
said,
doing
reaching
small group.
and smaller numbers of people, I think is a big. I think that's one of the biggest things about this is just like the number of people in an area, is
Yep.
a big part of it. So
And they left it up to school districts, from what I've read. I try not to be the guy that sees the headline because we see it all the time. Somebody just does the headline, I don't listen to anything, so I try to read through it. But it was kind of interesting to say, yeah, hey, the governor was like, we're leaving up to the state, and the State Department said we don't see. And so these are places that had no cases for several days and all this stuff, and they're like, well, we don't see any reason. The parents were like 80-90% for it, and they were they're sending them back. But yeah, I mean, they left it up to each school district to make that decision. And that may be something that we get into in the fall. I mean, as we go through, I know Ed's finishing up and we're finishing up over here in Alabama in the next week or doing that stuff that we're kind of doing. We actually have kids coming in next week to clean out lockers, and they're telling us that right now we don't have to wear a mask or anything. We're just kind of there to assist if they need us. But
whereas when we're around, if we have to wear a mask if we're going to be there to volunteer, or if they want you to wear it if you come into school, like through the office area where everybody is. But then once you go back to your room and area, then obviously you're not around people, then you're cool with it. So, like I said, even in the South, we're like one state away, and it's different. But each how they figure it out. All right, before we finish out for today, I do gotta ask Quantal a couple things. I always see both Nick and I are big on like trying to stay positive and a positive mindset. We've talked a lot about using this quarantine and finding ways to get better. I think you've kind of hinted at it already, just from a branding or business standpoint. How do you stay positive in this? And then like you mentioned, like people finding ways to get creative and do things differently to still reach people. Like, what have you done, or what's your advice to people right now in this?
Great question. I know things that I've done. I know personally for me, I am I do a lot of meditation. I do it daily, and I think mindset wise, it's drastically shifted the way I sort of see things. Not to say I don't get stressed or mad about certain things, but I'm more aware of how I react in certain situations now, and why I do. And it was one of those when I first saw the headlines about the virus sort of popping up, and there was a lot of people starting to stress out. There's people calling me, and that had their own podcast and like, hey, what do I do? What do I do? And so it's one of those where really just I'm one of those. I'm real big on experimenting with certain things. So even like with the with my podcast, I was already sort of using Zoom on stuff before the virus had already hit. So whenever we knew we couldn't go into person-to-person contact, I was like, well, shoot, I'm just gonna switch over to Zoom. I know I got the video, I know I got the audio, and I'll just use it from there. So I had a lot of people that wasn't aware of that. So there was people calling me and texting me, hey, what do I do? So it's just one of those where I just right now it's just you learn this could be the greatest time right now, or your worst time, and it really depends on how you perceive it. You could either come out with a new skill, a new talent, or maybe a talent you've already had that you can fine tune a little bit more. Um, a new perception as far as how you see yourself, how you see your family, how you see others, and then just being in gratitude more. The simple fact that we're talking on this podcast right now and we're healthy and we can actually breathe, that's already a plus right there. So seeing how we see those little things, makes us feel like, I mean, even with the things that's going on right now, I mean, as bad as it is, there's been, businesses, there's been, $100 million businesses, there's been new ideals, new concepts that's been formed right now in times like this. And so now is not the time to, sort of stress out more, feel like, I'm, going to victim mode. Right now, the time to be like, okay, where can I get
more resourceful? Where can I partner up with people? Who do I need to connect with in order to, create a foundation for the next year, next 2 years? We don't know what's going to transpire from any of this right now. From a school standpoint, from a business standpoint. So I think right now it's adamant. I feel like, learn something, learn more, gain whatever knowledge you can, and at the same time too, learn to give out more value and give out more inspiration. Just give more. I know I've been giving to charities. I go out and I do videos and to help support small businesses. And oddly enough, I found myself getting more projects and getting more things because of that. When I just got into the habit of just giving out more, just give out more insight, give out more value, help somebody else. Because sooner or later, all that stuff comes back around. So I think a lot of people right now, they get into the process of feeling like, well, okay, I've got a hoard, I got to get all the toilet paper, I got to get all this. No, you don't have to. And I think that's something to where we have to learn how to switch our perception of ourselves and how we view certain things. We can either be in a scarcity mindset or we can get into an abundance mindset. And when you switch it, even though you may not necessarily see it in your bank account yet, when you get in the process of just giving just to give, you feel a whole lot better. And at the same time too, that stuff comes back to you in some way or fashion.
Awesome. I really like that. The give more and doing that and like, gaining knowledge, but like giving it back out there as well. I really like that. That's one that I don't think we've kind of maybe talked about that, but like, just hearing it that way is pretty awesome. So really enjoy that. So awesome. I think I got the tree guy out here grinding some stumps outside. So I'm going to go check on that here in a minute. I guess here, maybe give it a little bit of time. Let's see where things land, and we can revisit this and see what happens, see where we are with sports, see where we are with things, see how things are going for you out there. And love to have you back on. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks for everything that you've done. We've gotten stuff from you in the past, shirts and, shorts and all sorts of different stuff from school stuff. I think it's awesome. Was glad to support one of the guys from the team, and you always supporting us, and shout outs and all that good stuff. So
I knew that graphic design degree was gonna be worth something.
Yeah. Let me into education. I gotta go back to the garage. I can go screen print a couple more T-shirts myself. So. Oh man. But all right, guys.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yep. Glad to have you, man. All right, you go enjoy that weather out there, and Nick, I'll holler at you later on too.
Yep. See you guys.
All right, see you guys.
All right,
Bye bye.